Okay, everybody, so this is week 6. I mean, it's not really week 6, but I'm introducing week 6 right now on a Saturday. Normally, I try to get all this stuff done like on Tuesday, but then life happens, and so now it's Saturday, and then still just wrapping it up. So when you have life happening to you, I have compassion because stuff happens. Like my kid was throwing up Wednesday morning, so suddenly the whole family's in quarantine. We had to get COVID tested. The kids are home, and like I was sick on Wednesday too, and nobody has COVID, but it just, like that. So when you do have stuff happen, you just send me an email and we work stuff out for the most part, right? Especially it helps if you're not a jerk about it. And I don't know that any of you would be. I have had students who were kind of jerks, but not the majority for sure. Anyway, a little distracted there, sorry. So week 6, we are still working on this whole like how to do landscaping, which some of you I'm sure are much better at than I. If I showed you my own little landscape here, you might be delighted. There's so many flowers tucked in everywhere, but also like, whoa, why did you put all that stuff in there? So a bunch of dogs walk by. Anyway, yeah, how come you didn't plan the water here? Why do you have to hand water this? That's crazy making, which it absolutely is. I also could stand a complete revision of my annual flower beds with the Netafim drip emitter irrigation at 12-inch spacing, which is what was available. 6-inch, if you're going to do vegetables or cut flowers, 6-inch spacing. Netafim makes it now. Netafim also, by the way, is a fantastic company for drought tolerant stuff. They're based out of Israel and has its own socio-political issues. However, they make a great product, and it's really a good, smart investment for Southern California. You need to have water. So I'm not totally off topic, just so you know. This is around planting the water. It's like a permaculture idea. You plant the water first, especially in areas that get a lot of drought, like us, and then the other stuff comes much easier. So planting the water is part of our task to learn about today, and not just irrigation. I did include some of that, maybe way too much for you. Please know, though, that it really needs to be part of our class, because, do you hear me? I'm like, hey, it needs to be part of our class. That means I feel bad that I'm making you learn all about irrigation, because it's such, for me, it just makes my brain go bzz, 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 bzz. There's a lot of math, and it's like flow rates and all these different things. But I also included some really helpful tools so that if you ever plan to go into landscaping, or if you work in landscaping, hopefully there's some stuff there for you. And if you don't and you're like, ew, just kind of hop over it. Just, skim through it and then move on. Now, next. Yep, we got that. So, other tools as well besides just irrigation. Like, what can you do? Irrigation, think of that as like the last resort. If, the best way to store water is in the soil, not in Northern California, which is kind of what irrigation does for us. It takes water from Northern California and brings it down here, which causes all kinds of issues and whatever. And it's just not ethically sound nor environmentally sound. It is a huge expense of energy, fossil fuel energy, to get that water like over hills and stuff, to Southern California. It's crazy. And then we use it to water grass that like nobody ever walks on. Anyway, I shudder at the thought. So, better strategies. It's been pouring rain, right? How much of that rain actually just washed right off the streets, carrying with it all kinds of who knows what, and went right out into the ocean? A huge amount of it, because we've created so much impermeable surfaces. The water flows off instead of sinking in, which is designed to do. So, capturing that rain, hugely important. Rain tanks and rain barrels, they're okay, but they only store a certain amount of water. The best place to store it is in the soil. And towards that end, I have introduced to you, I think it's in this one, a wonderful, wonderful human being. His name is Brad Lancaster, and he's delightful. And he is changing the way we think about water in dry climates. So I hope you enjoy him. He's also super enthusiastic. I think there's another like way too overly enthusiastic permaculture guy. Well, one of these. Anyway, Matt Powers, who's like, yeah! That's for you. So then we have a little quiz, a short quiz, just designed to make sure that you've looked through the resources. I'm not trying to like, bust anybody's thumbs or whatever. And then what do we move into? Yes, then our plants for this week. These things take me so long. Anyway, I'm learning too. Yeah, it's fun. We were starting the Eudicots, which is great because these are some really awesome plant families. And I went and I picked some things just to share with you. Here's a fancy ranunculus. So I think I've included a Ranunculaceae in the overviews and the objectives. Let's get that Violaceae out there, photo hog. And then I think a hellebore too. So here is a fancy kind of new, old looking Ranunculaceae. It's called butterfly ranunculus, and what's nice about it is the flowers are single, so they only have like 2 rows of petals, which counts in cut floral industry as a single flower. And you can see lots and lots of reproductive action going on there. You might not see that all that well. Here is a more traditional cut flower ranunculus. So you can see that this one has rows and rows and rows of petals, and this is what the hybridizing does. It turns a lot of those reproductive parts into petals because people like petals. So this is a more conventional ranunculus. And then anemones are also part of that family. This is a Japanese anemone. Sorry, not a Japanese anemone. Japanese anemones look quite different. There we go, right there. But these guys have blue pollen, which is kind of wonderful, I think. And then we have a representative of the Violaceae right here, who lost a petal, poor baby. And here's that funky stigma. The stigma sits right atop the ovary there. There's really no style to speak of. I know that sounds funny, like, no, it's a very stylish flower. And then when this is mature, that elongates, and the top there, the stigma, becomes the top of the capsule. And just below those stigma lobes, there are little pores that allow for the seeds to spread out. And then I also have a hellebore for you right here. These grow well here in Southern California, and you would not know that from Googling. They say don't even bother, but they're fine. So here we have a younger flower, a more recent flower, and you can see, it's a little tricky here, the reproductive structures. There we go. So these are not petals. I think I mentioned that in the soft chalk. These are the sepals that have been modified to be colorful, and the petals are highly reduced or non-existent. Just really, they've turned into nectaries for bees just at the very base, and then loads and loads and loads of anthers. And in the very center is the fused carpels. And here we can see the old stigmas, and then what will become, not in any of these. Oh, it already dropped. That means I might get some babies growing. The seed capsules are maturing. Anyway, just wanted to share some of my real life pretty flower things with you, since we don't get to be in real life. And also the Proteales, which are fantastic. These guys should be planted a lot more widely down here. And if you are a landscaper, these are really, really good to know about. They're wonderful. Plant presentations for you folks, doing 66 through 80 this week. I will be posting those. And also for this week, we explore Dr. Suzanne Simard, who is extraordinary. I hope that you enjoy her work. And if you get really into it, if you haven't already read The Overstory, that is a fantastic book. It's so well written, and it's wonderful, and it tells a political story, but also an ecological story that I think needs to be told. And then we have our second plant library quiz. So a word of warning, just because of the, it was hard to write that quiz. I know, feel so sorry for me. I added a few more points to this one to make up for the only 28 points in the last one, because I didn't do it quite right. So they're supposed to be 40 points each. And well, think of that last one as a practice quiz, and this is now like more of a real quiz. So there's more of the plants that you have to know, just to give you a heads up about that. And then I also want to pronounce for you plants 81 through 95. I think this is the right one. There we go. So if you're not doing these plants this week, you can say goodbye right now. I have a feeling that I missed some plants. Did we do Raphiolepis indica? I don't remember that. I think we're doing these plants this week. Let me double check. 1 through 95. So this should be people doing week 5. 66 through 80 would be presenting. No, this is week 6. And y'all are going to be presenting them during week 7, so you need to know them now. Sorry for that. These week things get me all flustered. But I think I did miss out on 66 through 80, so I'll probably have to add that in somewhere. Sorry, just talking to myself. So 81 to 95. Seems wrong. Anyway, maybe no one's listening now anyway, because you're like, I don't need to know those. Okay, well, if I need to add the other ones in, I will do so later. So number 81 is Ribes sanguineum. Ribes is another really wonderful plant. Strelitzia reginae, bird of paradise. Syzygium paniculatum. Tacoma, it used to be called Techomeria. These are wonderful, extremely drought tolerant and kind of overused, but there are some interesting and less common color varieties out there. Teucrium fruticans, Viburnum opulus, Viburnum tinus, Westringia fruticosa. People always think this is rosemary, but it's not. Bougainvillea, different hybrids of bougainvillea. Probably everybody knows that plant. Clitostoma calastigoides. That's a fun one. Ficus pumila. Galisimium sempervirens. I have no idea if that's a hard G or a soft G. Anyway. Oh, Hardinbergia Violaceae. I want to find this one. If any of you know this plant, I've been looking for it. It's wonderful cut flower, and I haven't seen anyone growing it. Mandevilla Alice DuPont, and then Parthenocissus tricuspidata. Parthenocissus tricuspidata. That's cool. Okay, so if those aren't the right ones, I will add in the earlier grouping, and if they are helpful to you for the following week, then that's good too. See ya!